For 3 years, I was struggling to go past the $3,000 a month mark. And I would reach $3,000 and then a client would leave and I would be back down to $1,500 or $2,000 a month. And for those 3 years, I was grinding and hustling a lot. I was doing everything I was told with focusing on Twitter and LinkedIn and doing cold DMs every day and sending thousands of cold emails every single month. And I was still stuck in a 9 to 6 job that I hated with my guts. And I was spending 6 to 8 hours a day hustling on my business on the side. While just a few weeks back, a client went from paying me $100 a week to now basically paying me over $1,000 a week. And you can see this right here. In June, he in fact paid me $650, whereas in July he paid over $3,200, and this is only the middle of July, so it's gonna hit $4,100 by the end of the month. And all of this is thanks to this simple yet effective business model, which I'm going to teach you about. So today, I'm going to pull back the curtains and show you the model that has allowed me to make over $65,000 with basically just 15 YouTube videos with just one virtual assistant while working between 2 to 4 hours per day. Now, one of those hours is dedicated to recording this video. So I'm going to show you the exact model, walk you through it, and I'm going to give you 31 different insights that you can implement in your business, which works regardless of whether you're starting from zero or already making $10,000 a month or more. My current clients, some of them are making $200,000 a month, which is way more than I am doing, but keep paying me every single week because they want to grind less and implement my systems to work 2 to 4 hours a day as well. So let's break down what changed to get me here. So first of all, why did I not get the revenue I wanted? Let's talk about that. So the current industry optimizes for as follows. It says get leads, right? And turn them into clients, which is pretty standard. But I also used to run this model with doing outreach, doing tons of follow-ups, having sales calls and everything. While I don't do sales calls anymore, I don't run ads anymore, and it's just me and my assistant. So what changed here? Before, I used to also do the same thing, which is get leads and turn them into clients, right? Pretty straightforward. And this is kind of how it normally works for almost anybody running a business online. But a common recurring theme you're going to find with what I do differently is obey the laws of what I call the prospect matrix. Now, usually with getting leads online, most people try to jump them into directly paying and becoming clients, which is pretty straightforward. I also did the exact same thing. Now, you typically will get leads from outreach, socials, emails, or ads, right? And you turn some of those people from leads into becoming retainer clients. But what we found here is that this can be very inefficient because of the prospect matrix. Now, what the prospect matrix basically says is that there are different kinds of buyers with different behaviors, right? So typically, when you try to get people from becoming a lead to directly becoming a client, what happens is you skip most of these potential buyers because there are 5 kinds of buyers which I have found in my experience doing business online for the last 5 years. There's the first kind, which is a lurker, right? So this is the kind of person who will consume from you but never really buy from you. They're never going to engage, they're never going to like, never going to DM. Then there are the non-committers, which are people that will engage with your content, but they will never book a call and definitely never become a client. Then there are people who are the triers, right? They'll book calls, they'll buy your low ticket stuff, they will opt into every single lead magnet that you have, and they'll test you out to see if your way works for them, but they are highly unlikely to buy unless they resonate deeply with what you're saying. Then there are the buyers, which are people who are essentially in extreme amounts of pain. So they buy anything as long as they trust you and they can see that you can fix their problem. Then finally, there are the investors, which are people that would rather pay once high ticket than pay recurring because they don't like to commit to paying recurring amounts, but they have the money, right? Now, the industry only optimizes for the buyers typically, and sometimes also the investors. But we at the YouTubepreneurs also optimize for the lurkers, the non-committers, as well as the triers by owning their attention first and turning them into customers. So this is how we define a customer. A customer is basically somebody who bought a one-time thing from you. So here's an interesting statistic, in fact. I actually have 12,000 followers online, and yet I have 120 customers who have paid me for a one-time thing. And these are customers, right? Not clients, not recurring clients. These are customers. And these customers basically make up 90% of my income in terms of not how much money they made in the one-time purchase, but how many of them turned into recurring paying clients. So you see that this is basically 90%, right? And this is somehow 10%, even though the numbers are, well, obviously way bigger. So there's a huge discrepancy here, right? And this means that just adding one step in between allowed me to turn all of the people who said maybe, later, not now, I'm too busy, and people who did not ever book a call, it allowed me to turn so many more of them into clients just because it's way more efficient. Now, why does this work? Again, because of the prospect matrix, right? So the current industry basically asks every lead, no matter who they are, to jump from becoming, well, somebody who just found out about you to becoming somebody who pays you a recurring amount, whether it's like $2,000 a month. Now, here's the problem. It's like going on a date and asking someone to marry you before they have even learned anything about you. So we don't do that because we obey the prospect matrix. We don't ask leads to marry us directly unless they want to, which is in most cases pretty rare, and only some crazy people will just marry you without going on a date, right? So we ask leads instead to flow from becoming leads to customers to then becoming clients. Now, this has two main benefits. The first one is that you don't have to spend time talking to too many leads. And the problem is that most people spend 90% of their time with leads and 10% with clients. Instead, I do the opposite. I spend 90% of my time with people who are already paying me and 10% with people who are willing to pay me. So that's the first benefit. Now, here's the second benefit. Because if you introduce a step in between, it allows you to only talk to people who have admitted they have a problem and paid for it already. So the funnel and model I'm going to show you is designed around three main things. Number one, how do you get leads in the highest leverage way possible? That compounds over time, and that's important. Secondly, how do you turn a lead into a customer, right? Yeah. Then number three, how do you only talk to customers to then get the right ones to become clients? Now, this has a lot of freedom because the burnout in your business doesn't happen from talking to and working with clients and delivering services. It comes more from trying to chase leads and trying to convince them to book a call, and then you have low show rates and you don't know why your leads are not working out. You don't know why your acquisition channels are not getting your leads, and then you over obsess over it and you eventually start burning out. And that is what really drains you. So I came up with this model that allowed me to not do that, right? And that's what this model allows you to do as well. Now, I did not come up with this myself. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. I have just adapted it to my experience and business. So let's begin properly. So how to get leads, right? You have leads and you turn them into customers, and then you turn those into clients. The nuances of each step really matter a lot here. So we're going to start right here and we're going to begin with leads. So how do you turn an audience into leads? How do you get leads? That's the big question, right? Now, the big realization I've had after building an audience online since 2015 and building several businesses online since 2021 is that the best place to put your attention are always the most leveraged. So as entrepreneurs, right, we have typically three resources. It's money, time, and attention. Money is the least valuable because it can be earned. Time is more valuable than money. And attention is the most valuable because it lets us enjoy, relax, and actually make progress. Now imagine if you put your attention into an asset that requires the same amount of effort and money and time, yet compounds over time. Because here's the thing that I realized which changed everything for me. The problem wasn't how I was trying to get attention. The problem was where I was getting it from. You see, the industry teaches us to chase fast content, right? Reels, TikTok, Instagram, ads, carousels, DMs, whatever. They tell you to show up daily and build in public. But the brutal truth is that that entire model is built on chasing momentum, chasing clients, and momentum dies fast. You post today, awesome. 24 hours later, nobody can see the post anymore. And in a world where AI can generate 100 pieces of content every single hour, posting online is no longer an advantage. It's no longer a piece of leverage, because you are basically like this guy at that point, right? You are pushing a rock up a hill, and that's fine. You're going to get a little bit jacked because, you're building muscle by putting effort. But you don't have to build muscle when there's a guy in your exact same niche who doesn't even know what he's doing, and then he just knows what levers to pull so that the rock can go up the hill with lesser effort. And that was the case like 3 years ago. But the case today is way more different. It is that some guy who has no information whatsoever can take a chat GPT prompt from somebody in your industry and press a couple buttons and basically get the rock up the hill in just a couple seconds. So you're competing with this guy, the guy who has infinite leverage essentially. And I love this quote from Naval, one of my favorite people in one of my favorite modern philosophers. Effort is the tax you pay for no leverage. So leverage is extremely important, right? That's the main takeaway. Anyways, moving forward. So therefore, over time, what's going to happen is that the only thing that will stand out in terms of content creation, because everybody is using AI, is going to become more human stuff. So I had to ask myself, what's the one place left where I can show up less often but make more impact? And the answer was YouTube, which is why I have something that I call the YouTube lead machine, and it's a core driver of my business. Because YouTube is the only place where, firstly, content lasts for years, and secondly, one video every week can be repurposed so much that it can literally become 50 plus pieces of content, or in total like 300 pieces of content every single month from just one video a week. So that's 4 to 8 hours of effort every month to make 300 pieces of content. You can write as many emails, as many Twitter posts and everything as you want, which is what I do, right? I only focus on doing the one main thing, which is building my YouTube video for every week, and then my assistant takes care of distributing it everywhere. Now, what this does is that trust builds automatically while you sleep. And content, as it goes, cannot be easily replicated with AI prompts when you're making YouTube videos, because although you can use AI to improve your processes, which I teach inside the YouTubepreneurs, I have 30, 40, 50 page long documents you can just paste inside ChatGPT to give you video ideas, titles, documents in depth about like the YouTube algorithm and all of that. But that stuff, when used right, builds you leverage because it builds you trust. Because YouTube is the only platform that no ChatGPT prompt can create a YouTube video of 10 minutes in length, which is actually good, right? So no ChatGPT prompt will end up doing human things like spinning this whatever rubber thingy. So that is not disposable content. It's not necessarily built for speed, but it is built for compounding trust. And that's the secret nobody tells you in 2025, that the people who win online now are not the people who post the most. They're the people who post in the most leveraged way and in the places that matter the most. So let's break this down properly, right? I call this the YouTube lead machine. And when I say just post, YouTube videos every week, I don't mean posting how-to tutorial-based videos. I instead mean doing this. So I've had videos that I've posted that are belief shifting and trust building in such a way that when somebody consumes it, they have no doubt in their mind that I am extremely knowledgeable in my field. And what that does is it shifts beliefs. And we'll talk about exactly how to do that a little bit later in this training. And most importantly, what this does is it filters my best buyers before I even speak to them. Because most people think that YouTube is a place to get views, but it's not. It's not a place to go viral. It is a place to, get people to think, holy shit, this guy understands me better than I understand myself. That's the power of YouTube. Because when someone watches a 10-minute, or in this case, like a 50-minute long video, which I made about the YouTube algorithm, right? What do you think that does in their head? That makes them trust me so much, because how in the hell can somebody talk about the algorithm for 51 minutes if they had no information on their hands whatsoever? Which means that just by the fact that I have uploaded this video and the fact that it has a couple thousand views, it is essentially certain that I am somebody who is an authority in my space. And one of the funniest and most interesting things that ever happened to me in the last couple of months is somebody DM'd me and said, "Hey man, I checked out your channel, saw that you have 3 videos on the algorithm, and I was sold. I didn't even watch the video. I just want to jump on a call with you and start paying you." You realize how crazy it is that somebody did not even need to go through my funnel, didn't want a sales call, doesn't want any other information on me just because they have seen my channel and seen that I have a couple videos on topics that nobody else essentially has made videos on. And that's how this system is built. You don't need a discovery call, you don't need a payment link, but you become the person in their head that can help them get the result that they want. So it changes their belief. It also establishes your core personal philosophies. So now that you get the why and the how behind YouTube, let me walk you through exactly how to turn one weekly video into a lead, into a customer, and finally into a client. So here's how it works. Every time I post, I do 3 things at once. I post content that follows these fundamentals, which is I have, how to build a YouTube strategy. There's 10 types of strategies, by the way. What conversion mechanisms to be used, what are the blockers to avoid to ensure that your channel grows, what kind of content you need to post. Should you post broad content or niche content? Should you post content with more CTAs or lesser call to actions? Should you have a lead magnet or should you just push people to a sales call? All of that depends a lot on basically how you sell, who you sell it to, and what your delivery mechanisms are. So that's something to keep in mind quite a bit. And then using the views formula, which I've created, which is basically going to tell you what makes an idea strong, what makes a thumbnail work, what makes a title work for the specific video, how to package your video, what is the market size for the video, so the views potential, how appealing is the video, how much hype is there, what's all of that. So I've made a mathematically calculatable formula to make it very, very, very easy to ensure that no matter what happens, my video gets the result that I want it to, which is in most cases get sales, right? Which is why you see here, I've gotten sales with videos which just have a couple hundred views and they've paid me in recurring 5 figures, right? So most of the industry tells you to book a call. But remember what I said earlier, most people aren't ready to marry you. They just want to date you first. So instead of pushing them straight to a call, I send them to something way lower commitment. I send them to a lead magnet, which captures all the information that I require from them, right? And that lead magnet sends people to my email list. And then in the email list, I do something that nobody else does, which is I literally send them a daily email with providing an insight so they see me as an authority, and then making an offer every single day so that the readers turn into buyers, right? This builds trust at scale. You don't need to spend time with each prospect separately. And the benefit is that there are certain techniques and tricks and tactics you can use to just grow your email list way faster, which I've got here as well. So you don't need to qualify leads anymore because they pre-qualify themselves, because only the right people will join your email list. And from that one video, it now becomes a filter for everybody who is in the prospect matrix, a trier, a lurker, a non-committer, and all of these other kinds of buyers that exist that nobody else really optimizes for, right? So for me, this system starts with 1 video a week. Now, not all videos equally work. And that's something very important to understand, is that just because you post content doesn't mean you'll attract people. And rather, typically, if you just post content, you'll attract the wrong people. So even the best funnel cannot save you. And this was the part that took me years to figure out. I'd post great content. It would get views. It would get me some replies, some comments, some DMs even. But I would still end up with either broke clients or no clients, right? So typically window shoppers, lurkers, all of those kind of people. And instead of trying to attract everyone who has a problem, I started creating videos that only attracted people who had a problem, had urgency, and had money. And that switch, my God, I cannot explain how much it changed everything. And the most efficient way I have found to do this is what I now call caviar content. Now, caviar content matters a lot, right? So, for example, caviar content is the practice of talking to only people who have the problem you solve and the money to pay for it. Now, what does this look like? Let's say you were looking for people who make, 10K a month, right? And that was your goal. Get people who make 10K a month. And if you made a Twitter post or a YouTube video telling people how to make $10,000 a month using Twitter or whatever, then you're only attracting people who are below that number, right? You cannot attract people at that number or above that number just because You're not making content specifically for those people. So that's not really the best use of content piece, because that's how you only get broke people, which is what I call candy content. Yeah. So instead of making candy content which appeals to kids and broke people, we make caviar content which obviously only appeals to people who have money, right? Caviar content allows you to turn people who have the money, who have the problem, and you can only focus on them. So how do we do it? We attract people with caviar content in three main ways. The first one is philosophy, and I'll leave the other two for later. Now, I have some clients that make more money than me, like I said, others who have been in business for 40 years or more, others that run a completely different business model than me. And why is that? Because they have seen what problems I can solve. I've asked my clients this question too, and everybody has different answers for why they pay me. Some of them love my approach to content creation. Some of them love the frameworks that I have built. Some of them love my automations and processes. Some others just, well, love to listen to our calls, which happen twice a week, and learn more about how different people are doing businesses because they are new to this whole online business thing. So when I put my philosophy out there, like this video you're watching is an example of me putting my philosophies out there. I talk about what I believe in, what works for me, and my philosophies, and my personal truth. Then it attracts people who can also be way above me because they might be interested in one of those things. They don't have to be making 10K a month. They can make 50K a month, 100K a month, whatever. I am not calling out a specific kind of person. I'm calling out a person with specific problems. So you see this all the time at the gym, right? There's a billionaire at the gym. Obviously, he makes more money than the gym trainer, but still he pays the gym trainer. Why is that? Because the gym trainer has something that the billionaire doesn't, a fit body. And that is what is appealing to them, right? So you attract low income people with promises like how to go from 0 to 5K a month. And you attract higher income people with philosophy. Like what I also did in the beginning of this training. I said, here's how I make $65,000 with 15 YouTube videos with just one virtual assistant and working 2 to 4 hours per day. So essentially you talk lesser about the goal and more about how you accomplish the goal and how to get to the outcome. Now the second way on how to use caviar content is potential. So for example, I have a client who helps millionaires invest in luxury watches. Now, let's say he wanted to make a piece of content which was about how to make an extra $100,000 flipping luxury watches. Like how to ensure the watches that you already have, right, get sold for $100,000 or more. A bad piece of content would be showing you how to make $100,000 so you can invest in luxury watches. Why? Because maybe people who are more desperate to make money are gonna be attracted to that piece of content. And it's not giving you context on who this is for, so anybody who wants to make money is gonna be attracted to it. But a better example of a piece of content that's actually more caviar content in nature would be something like, hey, do you see those watches you have collecting dust in your closet? Let's turn those watches into $100,000 in 72 hours and I can show you how. Right? So what this does is it only speaks to people who have something specific, which is a few watches in their closet that are collecting dust, and maybe they don't use those watches and they're willing to sell them. And will you get lesser leads? Obviously. But will you get better leads? Also, obviously. Right? So as I said, I have 12,000 followers and most of them don't pay me any money because I attracted them with candy content. I've also had over 50,000 followers on my previous YouTube channel and that was making me essentially no money. And it's pretty common actually to talk to people in the industry who have a ton of followers and they say that people just don't buy from them, right? People say that everybody is unqualified. They just don't give you money. And the reason is because you built your audience the wrong way. You built it with candy content when instead what they need is caviar content to buy. So caviar content matters more than you can imagine. So stop putting out candy and start serving caviar. And that is how you will attract better people and turn them into leads. Now, the third one is perspective. It's basically how you look at yourself, right? So this is kind of my beef with the online industry. I tell people, don't call yourself a coach. Don't say that you're an agency owner. Don't say that you sell a course. Don't call yourself a mentor or a consultant because that pigeonholes you into one specific thing. I also made this mistake myself of saying, I am a YouTube coach for entrepreneurs, or saying that I run an agency helping entrepreneurs get leads from YouTube. Then what happens is that people feel like they know what you're going to sell to them. They're like, oh, so you just sell a course. Oh, what's the price of the course? Oh, you just sell XYZ thing. What's the offer again? What's the pitch? Shoot it. Nah, I'm not interested, right? It becomes a weird dynamic because you lose all authority in any transaction where somebody knows you're trying to sell to them. So it's way more useful to have the perspective and see yourself not as a coach, not as a consultant, not as a mentor for a specific niche, or not as somebody who helps influencers make an extra $10,000 a month, but as somebody who instead solves many problems because you have many solutions. So again, we kind of go back to philosophy, right? I have clients who make more money than me because I have solved many problems. One of them is money. One is automations. The other one is margins, right? So some people don't need more money. They just need to spend lesser time on their business. So instead of calling yourself somebody who I help X niche solve Y problem in Z time frame, it's way more helpful to look at yourself as here are the problems I solve, right? So for example, I have this nicotine gum that I use to focus, right? Some other people I know use it to relax, and I'm surprised because I never feel relaxed when I'm chewing nicotine. But some others use it to quit smoking. Now imagine if the company that sells these tailored their ads to one specific avatar, like we're going to go after people who make online trainings like these and who upload videos on YouTube, and who, you know, if they did that, they would go broke tomorrow because what do? They instead lead with the problem. They don't see themselves as we they don't pigeonhole themselves and their brand by saying we only help online entrepreneurs have more focus, right? They instead just, hey, this is what it does, and you can use it however you want. So when you approach content like that, like here are the problems I solve, you tend to attract better leads because you are dynamic. You solve many problems. Even a few months back, one of my clients ascended from the YouTubepreneurs into my other business, which is a done for you YouTube service, right? And I fully expected him to stop paying me the weekly pricing because the YouTubepreneurs is like a done with you business, and the done for you business is separate. But instead, he kept paying for both because he loved the system inside my done with you program so much that he said, actually, can you increase your service offering in the done for you model to also implement everything you teach here, because I don't have the time to do it myself. I never felt like I was qualified to charge money for the kind of solutions he asked me to help him with, but now I am charging him money, and now he is paying me double the money of any of my previous clients have ever paid me, just because I am solving many problems that I also did not know I was qualified to solve. And so can you. So when you look at yourself that way, business becomes easier. So let me give you an example of this from an anime that really made this whole thing resonate with me so much, and I think it'll do the same for you. Whether you watch anime or not, I love this anime called JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. You might have seen some of these memes. If you're not, well, that's fine too. Basically, there's this character called Dio Brando. He's the main villain for the anime. So in the 6th season of the anime, there's this concept called heaven, which Dio is chasing after. It's basically Dio's ultimate plan to become immortal and reach heaven, essentially, like become a god, right? So it's his vision for reaching a state where he literally controls fate and all of humanity, and he can control time, and he can see everything before it happens. He cannot be surprised, he cannot be killed, he's immortal, invincible. But he never gets to reach his goal. And do you know why? Because instead of building the systems and focusing on the things he knew would work, he instead got stuck, or rather let his ego get in the way and got himself stuck fighting the same battles as everybody else. And he got obsessed with proving himself in other people's arena, and essentially tried to win with brute force and tried to become the strongest within their rules, when he had rules that, when essentially he could have done things beyond the comprehension of anybody he was fighting against. And he ended up dying because his ego made him want to fight battles that were not necessary for him to fight. And he literally died trying to prove himself in a fight he did not need to be a part of. And that's what most people are doing with their business too. You see, you've got all this potential. You've got knowledge, frameworks, systems, automations, client results, and maybe even more than me, right? But you're out here trying to beat everybody at the same stuff like sales calls and outreach, when you could just be untouchable and rig the whole game in your favor, you're Dio. But instead of building heaven, you're wasting your power trying to throw punches. So don't nerf yourself like that. Build the systems that make you win without needing to fight. So I've done some crazy shit in my life that I don't talk about publicly because I just feel like it's not relevant to my target audience of entrepreneurs, right? I have, for example, given YouTube advice to MrBeast, worked privately with Tai Lopez on his students' YouTube channels. I have helped a WWE wrestler grow his brand online to make multiple six figures. I have done so many cool things that I don't talk about online. And my whole perception of this changed a couple months back when I told one of my private clients about this. And he was like, don't shackle yourself down and hone into your unique experiences because that's what makes you stand out. And I was like, fuck, you're right. So I just changed my bio on my Twitter profile, and that alone has attracted me more clients than I thought it would. Because I have had people DM me and say, oh my God, what do you mean you gave YouTube advice to MrBeast and Tai Lopez? Can I pay you? And I have had myself sign $6,000 clients in the last couple of months without sales calls, no outreach, no ads, just by honing into my unique experiences. So anyways, let's get back. So this is how we get leads, right? We get leads through caviar content. Now, how do we get them into the next phase? We need to talk about a small transition here, which is how to get leads to become customers who pay us one time without sales calls, right? The goal is always without sales calls, without spending too much time and effort. All right, so how do we do it? Now, there's a small transition here, which I would call insight versus value. Now, everybody in the industry, including people like Alex Hormozy, right, talk about give everything away for free, give all your value, people will eventually pay you for it. And then you look at his successful book launches and like big monetization events and you try to chase after that. But what I found is that this doesn't work. It works for some people, but I heavily disagree with it working for everybody because I believe that value can slow leads down. And the reason is because it goes something like this, right? You give away your tactics, you give away your free stuff, you give away all the sauce that you have, you build a huge following. And what do people do? They will black hat download your book for free. They will take all of this and they are like, thanks, dude. I know so many people who said, I will never pay for Alex Hormozy's books because he would not want me to. And I'm like, what? The whole reason he's launching books for $1, $10, $20, whatever, but 99 cents and all of that is for you to be able to afford to pay it. But if you think that, oh, because he gives away so much for free, he wouldn't mind if I never paid him anything anyways, well, is that the kind of business that you want to run where people just feel like they can take everything away for free because you owe them free stuff, right? So people say that I'll implement this and then get back to you, right? When I make $10,000 a month, then I will pay you. So you don't want to do that. You don't want people to say, okay, let me first get results with your free stuff. Then I will see if I can afford your paid stuff, right? Most people don't. Some people still do, right? They still honor their promise, but most people don't. Because instead, where value slows leads down, insight speeds leads up. Why? Because a client that's worth getting is not in the mindset of, let me steal everything I can from this guy. A client worth getting is just looking for, can this guy get the job done, right? They're looking to just trust you, which is why I was able to get somebody to buy from me just because they saw that I've given advice to MrBeast and Tai Lopez. They didn't even need to, right? Or here where somebody booked a sales call with me just because they saw that I had done videos on the algorithm, which was super in depth. They didn't even watch it. They just needed to know that I knew what I was talking about. Now, I don't do sales calls anymore. This was before I used to do sales calls. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, so value slows leads down and insight speeds leads up. Now, what is the difference between value and insight? Like, how do we define it? So value is essentially you telling people the answer. So it's when you tell people like, here are 10 exercises that you can do at home to get a six-pack, right? It's a step-by-step guide, tutorial, whatever. Whereas insight, right, is showing people that you have the answer, not telling them the answer so that they can just implement stuff themselves. So like, I have this client, he's a busy CEO. We used XYZ method. Here's the before and after picture. And it shows that you have the answer, but it doesn't only get people who are trying to get the answer for free themselves. it makes people want to actually buy things because now they're curious about what your answer will achieve specifically for them, right? Another like really big consequence of value is that it attracts an audience of sellers. So imagine if you teach everything for free, you know who is the person most likely to consume your stuff? People who want to become you, right? You see this all the time where a fitness coach is followed by hundreds of other fitness coaches just because the most successful guy, everybody wants to learn from them, you know? And so with value, you keep attracting people who want to be you, whereas with insight, you attract people who want to pay you, right? Big difference. So it's really hard to monetize an audience who doesn't want to pay you, obviously. So don't tell people the answer, show that you have it. Because if you just tell people the answer, you will only slow them down. And insight-based content does things differently. And this is kind of how I get people interested in what I am selling, right? Because I don't want reach, which is what value gets you, and which is what giving everything away for free gets you. I want revenue. That's all that matters to me. How much money I make, not how many people know my name, right? Unless you are somebody who wants that, go ahead, right? Like the value and jab, right hook from Gary Vaynerchuk stuff works for people who sell like, real estate syndicates or like big things, right? So I talked about this here as well in my complete YouTube or content strategy types, is that if you're selling something that's a very luxury service, you can afford to give stuff away because, you're trying to build goodwill and you're trying to sell exclusivity and relationships. But when you're selling done for you services or done with you or do it yourself services, you're selling results, right? And if you give the results and the process is away for free, what the fuck do people have as a reason to pay you? Because you gave everything for free, right? So keep that in mind. All right. Now, so this was about how we move people into the next stage and we sell them something. Now, what do we sell them? And this is where things get really important. And we got to turn them into customers, which we talked about. Now, how do we do that? That's the main question, right? How do we get people to become customers? So what do? Do we create new courses? Do we invent new things? Do we actually sell? And how do we sell? How I see it is we don't create new courses unless we want to. Let me walk you through this. So let's say you're a gourmet chef, right? You're cooking in your kitchen. You make some banger dishes. Everybody loves your stuff. You chop onions, you flip the pan, you season the chicken, right? You're doing the salt-based shit, all of that stuff. You check the flame, you do all of that stuff, right? And now most people think that if I want to sell something, I should create content teaching my recipes, right? Most common frame of thinking. But, you'll do things like, here's the full process of how to build, whatever dish. I don't cook, so I don't really know. You'll try to teach every single step, show them how to make the chicken look nice and all of that stuff. But what if instead you thought like this? Normally you will throw away the scraps, right? You'll throw away the peels, the onion skins, or whatever stuff. But what if that is exactly what you sell? The scraps, the peels, the stuff you never even think twice about. The things that you don't even think are valuable because they come naturally to you. Those are the things that create trust and sales. So when I say don't create content from the big thing, I mean stop obsessing over giving people the whole damn recipe book. Instead, think about the smaller things you can give people, right? So let me give you an example of this. So I help people create a YouTubepreneur business, right? Where I basically have processes and systems of creating YouTube videos that attract only your ideal client persona and converting them using the right caviar content, insights, and all of that stuff. Now, what is the big thing I sell? It's the processes and systems of creating YouTube videos, right? But what if instead of teaching people everything that I know for free, right, I cut it up into smaller pieces? Like, what if I just sold my ChatGPT script writing process, my procedures for how to automate the repurposing of your content from one YouTube video into 50 pieces of content, my 4-page Google Doc versus sales calls framework, my best performing content ideas, my templates of YouTube thumbnails, right? Which I already do, by the way. I already have stuff like this that I sell. And if I click and show you what this looks like, there's so many things here. So I have like, quick summaries of my whole process. I have the YouTube strategy outlined. I have filming and setup guidelines. I have a whole training on video ideas. I have trainings on how to multiply your views, 5 evergreen content pieces, deadly mistakes with your packaging, the packaging equation, how to master titles, how to master thumbnails, done for you thumbnail templates on Canva. So these are like more than 300 pieces of thumbnails that you can just literally put your face in and upload them to YouTube. How to script write complete trainings that are like 2 hour longs with 20, 30, 40 pages documents that you can just paste into chat GPT, or like I did yesterday, a breakdown of the 75 secrets of the YouTube algorithm, right? So all of these kind of little things I can sell individually. Now, how do we go about with doing that? And this is the most important thing, right? So now here's the interesting thing is that most of these things, the reason I call them onion scraps is because I already have them in my head or in my Google Drive, right? I already know these things. These are not new things I discovered and I'm making trainings about them. These are things that I already own, that I'm individually just pricing for different price points, and that's it. So here's the 3 big things that I've seen to work that you can sell. The first one is assets, which I already showed you, right? I showed you like the smaller pieces of the bigger thing that you sell. So these are not that I am coming up with new ideas. These are things that are small parts of my process, right? These are the assets. So the second thing that we sell is repurposing. Now I call this gourmet ramen, because if you've ever had instant noodles, right, you would see that the same instant noodles can be sold for different price points. You can sell a cheap packet with powder for 50 cents. You can sell a gourmet cup with some dehydrated peas or some vegetable inside for $2. And you can sit in a fancy restaurant where they plate the whole thing in a nice bowl, right, like this. They add some eggs, they add a slice of Wagyu or some spring onions, and they just sell the thing for $14. It's the same exact noodles, essentially, but just packaged differently. So you can sell the same thing as long as you make it look slightly different. So let's say you have, like 10 training modules in your portal, right? Now what you can do is you can combine the second and the third one, or the second and the fifth one, or whichever go really well. For example, I can very easily combine my chat GPT script writing process with my best performing content ideas, or my best performing content ideas with my templates of YouTube thumbnails, right? You can package them together, create a small little video or some kind of a training as a bonus. So it doesn't feel like a replay anymore. It feels like a new product because you've gourmet ramened it. And then the third thing you can sell, which is my personal favorite, is get paid to create. Now, what this means is that the other day I did a live training for my own clients inside YouTubepreneurs, and I showed them how to accomplish a certain outcome, like the algorithm training. And usually before, I would have just run the training and kept it like that there, and that was it, right? But instead, what I can do is I can sell one-time guest passes to people, right? Between $10 and $100, and I'll be like, hey, by the way, this is a training only for my private clients, but you can get access one time for $50. And 4 people bought it. So I made a $200 extra from stuff I was already going to create. And one of those 4 people became a client because during the training, I had the right touch points. So again, the prospect matrix, right? If you remember, the prospect matrix says that there are different kinds of buyers. You want to optimize for all of them. There are people who are lurkers, non-committers, people who are triers. So using the workshop or training in the middle to sell as a one-time thing, you appeal to both the non-committers and the triers who just want to pay one time first to understand how you sell, what you sell, and whether it's something that will make sense for them or not. So let me just do a quick recap so that we can continue further with the final stage, which is extremely important, and it sums it all up together. So we get leads with caviar content, right? We turn them into customers with insight-based content. And we do not focus on value because value slows leads down, whereas insight speeds leads up. And now here comes the question, which is how do we turn these people into clients, right? So we sell them one-time things, $10 to $100, but how do we turn them into clients? And this is the big question. Okay, so let's talk about this part. Now, so as I said in the beginning, I don't do sales calls. Now, how am I able to not do sales calls? It's because I have replaced sales calls with what I call a Google Doc. I mean, everybody knows what a Google Doc is, but a Google Doc offer, right? So let me pull one up so I can show you. So this is what it looks like. The Google Doc basically is a 4-page document that goes over multiple things, including what you sell, how much you sell it for, what are the timelines, what are the steps required, what's the investment, is there a guarantee, a summary, and how to join, and how much to pay, and that's it. So essentially, they get everything they need to know, which are the 4 offer components that you can essentially sell without a sales call just because you have these 4 components in a Google document that people can buy from. So this allows me to just have a document as the offer, so I don't need to jump on sales calls, and me and my assistant can take care of my whole business. Because this 4-page Google Doc offer with the 4 components works like this. So remember, we're not talking to leads, right? That's the big thing. We're talking to people who have become customers already, and we are selling to them only. Yeah, very important to keep in mind. Okay, now how do we do that? So there are only 4 things that they require to see, because they already know and like and trust you a little bit, at least to some extent. They like you and trust you, right? And these conversations are much easier because they already saw you doing your magic on a live call or on some kind of a product that you've sold them. And the biggest thing that I learned is that the bottleneck in your business is not that you don't have enough leads. It's that those leads just don't know how good you are yet, which is why they require some trust in you and your model. You have to give them a chance to pay you a small amount of money so that there will be some skin in the game, and then you'll be able to prove that you can do stuff for them. So we do this with a Google Doc with 4 offer components, and here are the 4 components in order. The first one is promise and time frame. Now, the big thing here is that clear offers beat irresistible offers. When you can clearly articulate, and it's helpful for it to pass a visibility test. Like if a person can close their eyes and see what the offer is going to accomplish for them in exact numbers, right? Then you get a lot of value from it. When I see an offer with words like, I will refine, I will supercharge, whatever, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You want to make it as specific as possible, because people buy when they are certain, not when they are, oh my God, this is awesome. Some people buy through emotion, but most people buy through logic, right? So especially when you're talking to entrepreneurs, right? You want to make it more clear what the ROI is going to be, what they're going to get exactly, like specifically, what are they going to get, right? So don't use words like goals, authority, 10x, supercharge, refine. These vague things, they might seem like irresistible, but they're actually confusing. Because if somebody says, I will 10x your business without any context to my business, first of all, I don't trust them. And secondly, what if I lie to them about how much my business is currently making, and then they end up, not being able to 10x my business, so they cannot, they then have to refund me, right? It's just crazy stupid. But, don't say things like supercharge, refine, authority, vague stuff that doesn't really get specific goals, because that doesn't make people trust you, right? You want to make sure that obviously you have an offer that is clear. So it's like, your first X, your next X, your X hours of Z, X% more, X% less. Use numbers, outcomes, make it feel like a pill, not a workout, right? People don't like workouts, they like supplements, because supplements are easy. So make your thing feel like a magic pill, right? You take the pill, you get the result, right? The closer you can get to your offer seeming clear on what it gets you, and it feels like a magic pill instead of a workout, the better it's going to sell. Okay, so the second thing is also equally big. It is the path. What does the path do? It reduces anxiety, because buying is exciting, but it also is anxiety inducing. So you want to make sure that when you give somebody an offer, you have them a path that they can see very clearly. So let me give you an example, right? Let's say there are 2 caves, right? And each of them have a diamond inside them. Now, one cave, which is, let's just call this one cave A, and this one cave B, right? So let's say that cave A, for a fact there's a massive diamond inside, massive. And there's a guide here, right? The guy is like, oh, by the way, yeah, there's a massive diamond inside. It's going to be worth like $1 million. You can definitely get there. But the cave is dark. You can't see anything inside. You don't know if there's any risk of being there, right? You don't know what's the catch. Like if somebody says, I'll make you $1 million, you're like, what's the catch? But he doesn't tell you what's the catch. He's like, let's hop on a sales call and, I'll talk about it more. Right? Then when you hop on the sales call, you're like, oh, can you show me some proof? You're like, I can't really say my client's numbers. That's kind of what it feels like. Because what if there's a snake? You don't know. What if there's holes you can fall into and basically die, right? You don't know. But what if there's this other cave, right? Cave number B. There's a guy who says, the diamond, you're only going to make $100,000. Like it's not a massive diamond, but I can show you what the cave looks like. Like I've been there, There's no snakes. There's none of that stuff. Like, it's pretty clear. It's pretty straightforward. Just walk in. I'll take you with me. Don't worry. I'll take you with me. I have a flashlight in my hand. I'll take you with me. You'll grab the diamond and we'll leave. And you're like, which one will you trust more? The guy who says, I'll give you $1 million. Just trust me, bro. Or the guy who's like, I'll take you to the point where you'll make $100,000 and I can guarantee it because I've been there. I can show you what it looks like exactly just for you. That is what you want your offer to do, right? So which is why my offer, half of the document is all about the steps, right? The three core components, and then the timeline, and then a summary of the timeline along with, in a nutshell, what's the phase 1, what's phase 2, what's phase 3. So you get to know exactly what you're going to get step by step. Because the thing that stops you from buying isn't the outcome, it's the clarity of the outcome. Which is why, even Alex Hormozy talks about, don't just have a dream outcome in your offer, right? Also make sure that the perceived likelihood of achievement of that outcome is there. And perceived likelihood of achievement just basically means believability. How much can you believe that the outcome is possible for you? Right? And you can believe it more when obviously someone says, oh, by the way, I've been there. I've taken 100 people through this cave. I go there every day. It's like a 2-minute walk. You just walk in, we walk out in 2 minutes, you get the diamond and boom, we're gone. Right? So next, pricing. Now, with pricing, one big thing that I would like to highlight is that people are not afraid of paying. They're afraid of committing. And this is something I've learned after hundreds of conversations and offers. Like, people aren't broke. They just don't believe you enough to pay you. They don't want to commit to you. You've probably heard things like, yeah, man, I'd love to pay, but money's a bit tight right now. Let me ask my business partner. Let me ask my wife. That's fine. But you have to realize that the same exact person just spent $400 on a concert ticket. They, watch Post Malone for $1,000 or something. They pay her, they are paying $300 a month for tools that they don't even use. They bought a second monitor for productivity. They have no idea where their last $2,000 in the bank account went. So no, it's not about price. It's about friction. So here's the secret sauce. Don't make it hard to commit, because people are not afraid of paying. They're afraid of committing. And you need to make it easy to start paying, and make it easy to continue paying, and make it easy to upgrade. Because people are not afraid of paying. They're afraid of committing. And if you can make it easy to start paying, easy to continue paying, and easy to, pay you and not worry about the decision, right? It makes it way easier for you to get money. So think about it like this, right? When you try to pay for, let's say, if you've ever been to university, no university tells you, oh, by the way, you have to pay $60,000 upfront. What do they say? They're like, oh, it's going to be $10,000 for this semester. And then $10,000 for next semester. Then $10,000 for next semester. But they only tell you the now price, not the forever price. They're not saying, you're going to have to pay $60,000 over the next 3 years. Yeah, please make sure you can pay it. They're saying, you just have to pay the $10,000 right now. So make your pricing upfront feel easy, which is why I do weekly upfront pricing. We'll talk a little bit more about pricing in a couple minutes. But the goal with pricing is to make it seem like they are not stuck. Of course, psychologically, there's hundreds of little things you can do with the numbers and all of that. But the main thing is that to engineer the right price, you want to make it pretty specific what they're going to get, and make it pretty easy to start. Because you don't want people to feel like it's going to be $2,000 every month for the next 12 months. And they're committing, and they have to keep committing due to a contract. You don't want people to feel like they're stuck. So if you can articulate pricing in the right way, there's many ways you can do so. But as the prospect matrix suggests, it's better to optimize for all kinds of buyers than just the ones ready to commit, which is why you make more money by offering the smallest pricing option first, which is why we create customers first and then get them to pay us in the smallest way possible with weekly pricing upfront. And the people who are the investor kind in the prospect matrix, which is this one, right? We get them to commit and pay one time for 6 months if they want to. And you give them a bonus discount, right? So it's like $3,300 if you pay upfront, and you're going to save $1,500. Or you can pay every week $100. Nice, easy, digestible. You can stop whenever you want to stop paying. Very simple. Now, the last one is my favorite, and it is why now? Whoa, why now? But one big thing that I believe that most people disagree with is that people are not moved by value as much as they are moved by consequences. Because if you look at here, It is not the guy who promises you $1 million in 1 week. You're not going to pay that guy. Typically, you're not going to pay that guy, right? Some people will, but typically you're not going to pay that guy. It sounds really silly, but think about it like this, right? Let's say you run a coaching business, you do free consultations, which are basically sales calls, and you post consistently everywhere, and you always have spots open, and you can always take on clients. Now, this sounds good for business, but what do you think it makes the prospect feel? Like somebody who's been on a sales call with you, right? They just feel like you can be available whenever they are ready. But the problem with that is that leads know that if they don't give you money today, you will still be there tomorrow or day after or 6 months later, whenever they feel like paying you. Leads also know that if they're going to ghost you, it won't matter because you're still going to be there making the same offer and you're going to take them tomorrow. So fuck that. I have consequences. If you don't pay me today, I'm sorry, but you cannot pay me for a year because I have mapped out how much money I want to make per month, per year, per quarter, and how many spots I need to fulfill in order to get to that revenue goal. So even in the trainings that I do, which are done live, right? People can only pay me when the trainings are about to happen. They cannot pay me a month in advance. They cannot pay me one day after the training is over because it was live. I don't sell the recording unless I find a way to gourmet ramen them. I only give them the now price, and I only give them the why you should act now. So I cap my spots. I open and close my offers all the time. I give bonus deadlines. I have, price raises. I have new phases. I have new things that I sell all the time and stuff like that. But I never, ever, ever repeat the same offer to somebody who has said, I cannot pay right now. I will say, okay, I'm going to close your file. The offer is down now. Let me know if you ever want to pay again. I'll let you know if I have a spot available at the time, right? Now, a very important thing is do not do fake scarcity and urgency because people can smell through that. Now, next thing, right? So these were the 4 offer documents, and this is what I have built out for myself. So it looked kind of like that. And there's also some frameworks I use to cold DM people if I want to, which I don't. But if I ever need to cold DM people to close them, there's a cash script formula that I use to guide this process. But my assistant does it for me, so I'm not going to talk about it because my assistant is better equipped to answer questions about that. All right, so let's finally move into how to get clients. So we talked about how to get leads, right? We use caviar content. We post on YouTube. We build the highest leverage activities possible for us by posting content, leveraging it, repurposing it everywhere, all of that good stuff. We use insight, not value, to create customers. And we use assets, repurposing, and getting paid to create in order to create customers who pay us one time. And then we upsell those people from customers to clients. And this is how we do it. So when was the last time that you upsold a client? When was the last time you spun up something for the people who had already paid you and asked them, hey, would you like to pay more? Somehow, we just don't offer people anything. And that's a huge waste potential because these people have already paid you and they already trust you, right? Because like I showed you this guy, right? He went from paying me $650 in June to over $3,200 in July. And he's going to end up paying me more than $4,000 in the couple of weeks coming forth. How? So I go against the market here and I say something that maybe nobody has ever told you, which is that don't sell offer variation. I sell offer ascension. Now, a very important thing, and I'll explain exactly how to do this, right? So offer variation is basically when you have different offers. So, right, you have a course, you have a coaching, you have a community, you have agency, you have done for you, done with you, do it yourself, all of that stuff, right? Now, I don't agree with this because let's say if you improved your done for you services by hiring the right people, hiring the right talent, systemizing the back end and all of that stuff, that doesn't make your business 4 times more efficient, which is what you would think it does. Instead, it just makes it a quarter more efficient because you're scattered and it's hard to sell because then it's like, let's say you hop on a call with somebody, which I don't recommend doing sales calls, but let's say you do, right? You hop on a call with somebody and you say, oh, by the way, I have 4 offers that you can buy from me. And then the person will say, okay, like offer 1 sounds good. 2 and 3 could also work. And let me think about which one I want to buy. So more options slow people down, which is why I don't do more options, right? I only have one thing I sell for somebody who's new, and I have offer ascension working for me here. So I don't sell multiple different offers. I sell the same offer with the same end result, but at different price points, at different levels of access. And this is easy to sell and easy to understand. So if you're somebody who's paid me $50 or $100 before, I will say, okay, join my $100 a week program, right? And then when it makes sense, I'll say, okay, now pay me $250 this week. Now pay me $1,000 a week. If you want more help with the same thing that you're already paying me for, so you can move faster, spend lesser of your time on it, or get it automated for you, right? So for example, I did a training yesterday, right, which was about the 75 YouTube algorithm secrets, and people who were there ranged from somebody who paid me $50 one time for that training, some other people who paid me $100 a week to be there in my program, and some other people who pay me over $1,000 a week because they have the closest level of access with me, where me and my team deliver done for you services for them, right? So the offer ascension doesn't optimize or monetize for different results. It monetizes for the same thing. Everybody has the same access to the same thing, same system, same outcomes, just at different levels of service done by me and my team. And this makes it easy because clients are like, hey, by the way, for the next 1 month, I want to go hard on my business. Can I upgrade my pricing? Right? So it's never, hey, I need to stop paying you. It's, can I pay you more or can I pay you less? Or I'm going on a holiday for 3 months. Can you downgrade me? I'm like, okay, I can downgrade you, because in case if something breaks, I'm always still there and you're still having access to all the resources that I'm creating, all the chat GPT frameworks that I'm creating and everything. Just that you're more busy, so you don't want to hop on the calls maybe, or you don't want to text me as much privately because you don't want to do new things. You just want to maintain your business at the level it's at, so you can downgrade your pricing for a couple of weeks or a couple of months. That's fine. I just want to keep people in my ecosystem no matter what, right? So this is how in some months, one client will pay me more for 1 month than he has paid me for the previous 10 months combined, because for 1 month he's at my highest tier level, and then he goes back down after a couple of weeks or months after he's achieved whatever goal he wants to achieve, and then he downgrades back. So this way you can get people to pay you 2, 3, 5, even 10 times more. And especially if you have an audience, right? So you have like say 10,000 followers, typically, very honestly, you're not going to get more than 3% of people to become clients. So with the other 97%, right, we can sell them other things, right? Which is why we have things in the middle that we can sell. So essentially the whole model is kind of offer ascension. It's you offer them the smallest thing first, and then you offer them bigger and bigger recurring things as and when it makes sense for them. So this is kind of just a gist of how the whole model works. So let's do a whole recap of the whole thing, because I feel like we talked about too many things, right? So what is a YouTubepreneur model based on? So this whole thing is called the YouTubepreneur model. It's the YouTubepreneur way of doing a business, which in my opinion is the best way to do a business, because this way you can work 1 to 3 hours a day and essentially achieve everything that you otherwise would have in 10 to 12 hours a day, and work lesser, make more money, be happier, all of that good stuff. So what is the YouTubepreneur model based in? If you do a full recap, right? Based in the prospect matrix, where people only optimize for the people who are ready to buy, where the industry typically only optimizes for the buyer, whereas we optimize for the lurkers, the non-committers, the triers, the investors, and the buyers. No matter what buying behavior somebody has, we simplify it so we can offer each one of them something to buy from us. That way everybody stays in our ecosystem. And what is the minimum effective dose of a business that makes 20K a month or more with 80% profit margins and a maximum of 3 hours a day of work? This is it. For me, it's you get leads using caviar content by using YouTube lead machine as the primary source of creating trust. You post content on YouTube and you repurpose that content onto every other platform for you. And you do this by creating stuff using the frameworks that I have, which is what strategy you need to have, what are the growth blockers, what are the ways to get views, what are the lead magnets you're going to have, how do you offer people instead of nurturing people, and how do you send daily emails that are again repurposed from your YouTube videos, so that way you don't need to put an effort into creating that content. You sell with caviar, right? You talk about your philosophies, your potential, your perspective, and you don't do outreach, don't run ads, don't do email unless you want to. You use insight instead of value to speed leads up instead of slowing leads down. You show them that you have the answer instead of just telling them the answer. And you create customers by gourmet ramening your content. Don't think about what new thing I can create. Think about what is the thing you already have, which you can just cut up into smaller things and sell to them for a one-time price. And when they buy, you keep them in your list. You then give them the offer, which includes a promise and a time frame, a path to buy now, using the diamond analogy, pricing, right? You ask them to pay weekly, ideally upfront, and then commit to paying more if they want to, and then you introduce some mechanisms to make them value you by committing right now instead of waiting and delaying the thing, by capping your spots, opening and closing windows, having deadlines, price raises, new phases, etc., etc. And you then get people to become clients by doing offer ascension instead of offer variation. So you offer the same thing at different levels of pricing, essentially, and you upsell people when it makes sense, you downsell people when it makes sense, but you keep them in your ecosystem, and you close people. If you ever need to use cold DMs, you can. I don't recommend them, but you can use cold DMs as well to just get more leads if you're struggling with leads. And that's basically the whole model. So that's the whole model, and this is how I'm gonna take $50,000 per month in profit by the end of the year by following the YouTubepreneur way. And this is it. Makes me work as much as I want. Sometimes I work 1 hour a day, sometimes I work 4 hours a day, but I definitely work only when I want to work and not grind all the time like I used to. So if you struggle with anything we mentioned today, I'd love to help you implement this. You can text me on any social, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. My handle is @mehir_narula, or you can email me on this email. Let me pull that in here. Maybe add that in here. You can email me at mehir@youtubepreneur.net if you want access to more information, or if you have any questions, or if you want to just get this to be implemented for yourself. We can do many things, right? We can work on your margins, your time, your profits, your automations, or any part of the system like caviar content or the YouTube lead machine or anything of that sort. But really the main goal is to have lots of blank space in your calendar, lots of profit in the bank, stop having the money disappear, and keep as much money as you can, make a ton of cash, be happy, work less than 4 hours a day. So if you'd like my help with any of this, you know where to find me, and I hope this helps you regardless. And if you want more insights like this every day, I send out an email every single day. You can go check out the YouTubepreneur newsletter if you haven't, and you can be part of that. If I can find the link, and if I cannot, then you are lucky. You don't need to be part of anything. Well, I guess I cannot find the link. So GG, good luck. No. Here we go. You can follow me on my socials anywhere. You can, click on the YouTubepreneurSystem.com, and basically you can join my email list if you want to. All right. So I hope this helps, and scale your business.